Hello and welcome to Reservoir Red Dogs episode 8. I'm Matt Ford, but for the duration of the show, think of me as your doctor, administrating your fortnightly dose of Forest nostalgia.
I'm Paul McGregor, but for the duration of the show, think of me as your nurse. Not a wet nurse. No, good. Which is handy, as I've got the uniform. Stuffy makes me say that. You're getting me back from the Beatles thing now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm running out of ideas for these introductions.
You put me in a nurse's outfit, for goodness sake.
You should see the stuff I delete. As always, you can join in with the show. Send us your efforts to get Paul McGregor Chants started and your ideas for chants you think we should be singing now. Let us know about your experience of being a mascot, a ball boy, or any memorable encounters with Forest legends. Email us rrd1865@outlook.com and tweet us at rrd1865. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on iTunes. A nice one if you can find it in your heart. It helps other fans find us. We are produced, as always, by Mr. Johnny Owen, who joins us from his sickbed via FaceTime. Johnny, are you well?
I'm not. I got a sickness bug, so I'm been wiped out. But I'm all right. I'm there with you in spirit, boys. That's the main thing.
Have you taken any medicine?
You've got a doctor and a nurse here, Johnny, so you'll be well looked after.
Well, we'll try and look after you. Today we are honoured to be joined by a modern Forest legend. His goals took Forest to the brink of the Premier League when he banged in 29 goals in the 2002-2003 season. He is the last Forest player to score 20 goals or more in a season. He is David Johnson.
And he presented it straight to Andy Reid. And David Johnson is away. A goal is beckoning. And he rarely misses. David Johnson strikes as Forest open the scoring.
David, welcome to the show.
Morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's hard not to start really with that season. We talked about it with Andy Reid a few weeks ago. It was really the last exciting Forest season we had, really.
Yeah, I think it was a season where there was a lot of promise. We had a very, very young team and we were just exciting to watch. You know, we'd get beat every now and then, but we'd get beat the right way. And I think it was from that team, there was a lot of players that went on to better things. And I think that it was the start of the end, really, where it should have been the start of, really good things to come.
There were so many great games, particularly towards the end of that season, the Norwich game, the Derby game. I remember the Sheffield United semi-final where it really picks you out with that cross-pitch long ball. I had a season ticket in the upper track. I remember you thumping it in. I mean, the atmosphere at that game, I mean, even the Arsenal game recently didn't come close to that. The intensity for the whole 90 minutes was incredible, wasn't it?
I'm getting goosebumps. It was unbelievable.
You actually are, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, just thinking about it now, really could do anything with a football. He was so talented, it was ridiculous. And it was as long as the ball was at his feet. And literally, I can just remember him on the half volley. The weight of the pass was unbelievable. And he just put me through. I just closed my eyes and hit it, and it went in, and that was it. So, yeah, it was a great atmosphere, and I can literally remember the roof coming off, and I just thought, we've got one foot in the door now. We just need to keep a clean sheet and go from there. But, the rest is history.
We talked about that game with Reedy. We were then 3-1 up on aggregate at Bramall Lane, and it felt half an hour to go, we were there.
Oh, at half-time, I can just remember coming in. Obviously, we were really pleased with how things were going. We started off well. I got another goal. Yeah. I thought we defended very well. And all of a sudden, we were starting to think about the final instead of the next 45 minutes.
Could you feel that in the room?
Yeah, and Paul Hart had to calm us all down, because to go away to Bramall Lane and play that well, it couldn't have been any better. And at half-time, I can just looking over, Marlon Harewood had a towel over his head. I think he had a migraine or something. And Darren Huckabee was struggling. And then all of a sudden, OK, we've got other players that could come in. And literally within 5 minutes of the restart, we had our back against the wall. And you think, OK, we'll get through this. Des, Tomo obviously came in for the game. We'll be all right. And then own goals, it was comical, absolute comical. We couldn't have, we just self-destructed. And once they were in the lead and they had the fans behind them, it was gone. It was awful.
Taste the blood, don't they?
Yeah. And they had 4 strikers on the bench. And to be fair to them, they gambled and it paid off.
It would have been because Forest haven't played at Wembley since 1992, it would have been the first chance we'd have had. I mean, whether we'd have won the playoff final or not, I mean, you think if you beat Sheffield United away, then we'd have had a very good chance. The momentum would have been there.
Yeah, definitely. I think the game, we played Wolves home and away both times that season, and they were a very experienced team. They spent a lot of money. But we always fancied our chances of... No one liked playing against Forest, especially at the City Ground, because we just outplayed everyone. But it's a one-off game, and, you know, when Sheffield United got beat comfortably, it was actually quite good, you know. But apart from that, it was a great time.
Because the season before, you'd scored 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work for whatever reason. What happened between, you know, the end of that season and the start of 2002?
I think me and Paul Harton will openly admit this, we never saw eye to eye first. And that was sort of through me being stubborn and him wanting his own team and wanted to put his own stamp or authority on the team. So when he started playing all these young players, I never had a problem with it. I thought, okay, they're quite talented, but let's see how the season goes. And on away trips, we'd have to be in our hotel room at 8 o'clock. And I said to him, you've got no chance. I says, I'm 24, 25, 26 years old. I said, I've got kids at 8 and 10. And I says, and they stay up later. And so what he used to do, he used to send the goalkeeping coach up and down the corridor. So I'd just go out into the corridor, bang on one of the lads' rooms, you know, get the normal DVDs to pass the time away. And he would go back and snitch on the manager to me. And then I got dropped for the game against Norwich. So I can remember...
What was the DVD?
It was How to Beat Norwich the Next Day. so literally...
I love that.
I got dropped for the next day. And so he said, you're not, you know, he says, you lack of respect and etc. Then we played Grimsby. So we turned up to Grimsby away. He didn't put me on the bench. And I just told him where to shove it. So I went outside, called a taxi back to Nottingham. The bloke went, seriously, mate? I said, just get me out of here. So that was the end to that. And then I went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, Burnley. It went well because I scored goals for Burnley right at the end. Yeah, and then,
right, yeah.
To be fair to Paul, first day back at pre-season, I got myself fit as well as I could do. You know, I thought, I've got a stone to lose. That's not bad. Back in the day, isn't it? Over pre-season. And he just said to me, he said, listen, we got off the wrong foot. He says, you've been scoring goals. He says, I'll work round you if you can, you know, apply with the rules and stuff like wearing shin pads in training and you can't wear tracky bottoms in training and things like that. And
Shinnies in training?
Yeah. And you could only wear studs, no mouldies.
Oh,
you had to take all your clothes off, like as in your proper kit, and train like you were playing. That didn't go down well, but I thought, I'll do it this year. And it was the best season I had. I actually started training like I was playing. And to think back now that I'd just get through training because it was an hour, I really didn't get enough out of my career. And injuries were a lot to do with it, but that year under Paul was fantastic because I learnt a lot from him. And you know, the proof was in the pudding and the match day.
So the discipline actually was a good thing. Getting you to wear shin pads and not wear tracky bottoms, is that just purely that there are rules that have to be followed? It wasn't necessarily that you were at risk of injury?
Oh, no, training was lively. Some of the tackling that went on in them training sessions was horrific.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing, do you think?
It was a good thing because we literally would kick lumps out of each other, but we'd come on, shake our hands. Everything was high intensity. We'd play a lot of 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s, a lot of game situations, and the lads just wouldn't hold back. And I remember Michael Dawson coming up with the first team, and I went to receive the ball, and he just came through the back of me, and I looked around, and it was the young kid. And it was his first time up with the first team. And I turned around and looked at him and I just thought, you're getting it. I had a lot of respect for him because he just wasn't bothered who it was. And that's the reason why he probably went on to have a fantastic career. Yeah. But training was played like it is in the game. And I think that helped everyone because when we went into games, we were already at that level.
Was that different from your time there then, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, if it was, you know, it's five-a-sides. I mean, it did change a little bit under... Well, it did change quite a lot under Frank Clark, to be fair, because we had fitness coaches and nutritionists and all that come in. So it was the dawn of that new era. But previously to that, I mean, yeah, it couldn't have been more opposite. I mean, but if someone, you know, there'd be a few naughty tackles now and again, but I mean, it was very rare, and it was 5-a-side, and it was how many megs you could get on someone, and
Well, that's what I'd come through. So to change at 25, 26.
that's where I'm putting myself now in your position, thinking, because when I went to Northampton, I used to have a ding dong with, like, they were trying to stick the balls in the corner, you know, trying to get out of Division 2, for goodness sake, putting balls in the corner, and like, I was like, I'm not going to pass the ball to me. I'll go around someone. You know, we'll make something happen. Let's play football. And I could not. And I look back and I think it was a poorly run club at the time, and I didn't enjoy it there. But if I put my hand on my heart, I didn't dive into their way of playing, because I had that, like, we passed the ball. I passed the ball. I want the ball to my feet. And it was like that in training. It was high intensity. You get knocked up in the air all the time. I was just like, behave yourself. It's training.
Well, I think that was probably my saving grace, that when I left Man United as an apprentice, I went to Bury. And when you talk about poorly run clubs, they never had any money. So when I signed, the manager said to me, "Oh, would you like a drink?" And I said, "Yes, please. I'll just have an orange juice." And I can remember an apprentice coming into the room, and he gave him £1. And this apprentice ran across the road, went to a shop, brought an orange juice, sprinted back and handed it to me in a can.
Can of Tango.
So I went down to train in the first team, and they said, "Oh, Johnson." I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're on the goalposts." And I'm thinking, "What do you mean?" And I had to carry the goals down to training, because the goals got nicked at the training ground. So they had like wooden sticks, and you could just shove in the ground. So I had to carry one, and another young lad had to carry the other. And I can remember training every day. There'd be motorbikes in this park and field. We'd start arguing over, because the goal would go in, and lads go, "That's overhead height," because there was no crossbar. And literally, that's how it was ran at Bury. Wow. So by the time I came to Forest, it was like playing for Real Madrid.
Because your career started at Man United back in 1992 as a trainee, and a knee injury kept you out. But I mean, you were so close to breaking through at United, on the bench for a Champions League game.
Yeah, I was always on the fringes of that next stage, but they got to, I think that season, I think they went and brought Andy Cole, and then they started clearing out the Mark Hughes and stuff, and they obviously went into bigger, greater things, and I was never, patient or at that level. So, Gary Neville just said to me, "Oh, I'll go and play for me dad's team. It's only around the corner. They're all right." And, it was the best decision ever made. I had 2 unbelievable seasons there, back to back. And that's the reason why, when I got to Forest, I had that attitude, because when I went to Bury, 7 of the players were part-time. And I never saw them till Saturdays. So when I was training with a group of young lads and some senior players who had full-time contracts, the others were still working. Soup and sandwiches for pre-match, and there was chips on the menu every day. Fitness coaches, never heard of them. We just did doggies like everyone else. And I don't believe we were any unfitter than what the players are now. It was just that there was no boundaries. You were allowed to have a drink the night before, and our players did, because the manager goes, "No more than 6 pints." No more than 6 pints.
6?
Yeah, 6 pints was like the limit under Stan Turner. And I used to just laugh, and, it just changed. I think Arsene Wenger, when he came to England, everything changed.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people say no more than 1, or, we've talked to former players who played for the Forest in the 70s when that was the norm. But 6? Why that number?
Because Stan liked to drink, and, Mark Carter. There was a clip, I think, on the internet the other day, and it was him at Bury, and he was smoking on the sideline. And,
wow.
I used to ask the lads, I used to get like £25 appearance. And sometimes, he'd say to me, "Get us a fag and I'll put you on." So I think, brilliant, I can go and take the missus out tonight. So I can remember playing Gillingham away, and I was sprinting down the line. I said, "Excuse me, mate." And he went, "What?" I said, "I couldn't have a fag off you, could I?" And the bloke looked at me.
What's a supporter?
Yeah, a Gillingham fan, and he thought I was winding him up. And I said, "No, seriously, I couldn't have a fag off you, could I?" So he handed me this fag, so I took it off him. sprinted back up the channel, said, Gaffer, here I stand, gave him a fag, top went off, spike your cooling off 10 minutes, 25 quid. and that used to be the norm. And I think I went to Bury a couple of years later, and Burnley, sorry. And we were travelling to the away game, and it was like a massive game against Sheffield United, and Stan hated Neil Warnock. So he was getting nervous. So he started smoking on the bus, and the driver was going, you can't smoke on this bus. Turn round, half the team was smoking. So the bus driver had enough, pulled into the service station and everyone off. We were stood on the side of the services, and all the lads are smoking, and I'm just looking at this thinking, this is a proper pub club. It was hilarious. But that's what we did. So when I came to Forest after this, and he was telling me to wear shin pads, I never had any.
I mean, drinking's one thing, but like, so many of them smoked. Like, it's a constant thing, isn't it? For Jack Wilshere's been through it, Rooney's been through it, pictures of footballers smoking. It's still a taboo in sport. But do you think players now still smoke?
I think it's worse now.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. It's
because kids hardly smoke these days. You don't really see kids smoking. It's
they
frowned
can't
upon.
afford it. That's probably the reason
point.
why. But it's, do you know, is it snuff, that stuff they put in their lip? That's what all the players take now.
Really?
Mate, that was the story Scott told me. So Scotty said that there's some foreign player came in,
Heidegger Johnson and all the Icelandic players.
That's it. Little bag under their lip.
little bag under their lip.
Oh, yes.
And now, I bet it's virtually in most people's wash bags.
Wow.
Just as a little
There's
pep.
an insight.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Scotty said, honestly, someone told Gazza about it. He's like, what's that? And I was like, we just have this. It stops us smoking, and you can still get the nicotine rush. Scott said within like 3 days, Gazza was coming in like that, like Marlon Brando in The Godfather, just off his face, about 1,000 of them, feeling sick and that.
Yeah. It's weird stuff because snuff is like you can inhale it, can't you? But then that stuff, that Scandinavian, I had some at a wedding in Sweden. Where it's wet tobacco, and you place it in between your top lip and your gum, and you get that nicotine rush.
You're like Pablo Escobar, aren't you?
But then it's not as But then that's not as bad as smoking, is it? Because you're not getting tar.
Well, I think it's 6 cigarettes in that thing you put in there. It's worth 6 cigarettes, so it's probably worse, and it goes straight into your system. So that's now what players are taking. It's rife in football.
But what is that then? Is that just young lads wanting to have a bit of a youth and get a kick off something?
I don't know.
Steady, you hip cat.
I'm just trying to understand these.
Hi, kids, how do you get your kicks?
I think I was one of them.
I guess every generation's going to have a vice of some sort.
Yeah.
But they're fitter now, aren't they, than they've ever been, young footballers?
Oh, 100%. Hardly any body fat. Their lifestyle, their eating, everyone now is at that level where they look after their bodies. Sometimes I think they get told they're injured when they're not. But I think the word professional football is a lot better now because the players are unbelievably fit and they look after themselves.
But off their face on nicotine.
Yeah, on that side. Yeah. And they gamble more.
You scored many great goals for Forest. One of the most memorable is the one against Norwich when Rob Green's in goal. And of course, as Forest fans, we all remember Gary Crosby heading the ball out of Andy Dibble's hand. But Green plays the ball on the floor, doesn't see you coming, and you nip round him and stick it in. Did you say anything to him after that?
Well, he said, "Where did you come from?" He thought I'd come out of the stand. And literally, it was just in slow motion because I'd made a run across the near post and it didn't come in. In fact, I think the ball was a little bit too quick. It was a Matthew Louis-Jean poor cross as usual. And so I'd made a run past. I was knackered as usual, so I thought, I'm walking back. Usually Harty used to say, get back in position, then you can rest. But I thought, I'm walking today. So as I was walking back, I could see him trying to get the ball out quickly. And I thought, go on, I dare you. And then when he just rolled it out, I nipped in between him. And then when I rolled it in, it was like a couple of seconds that no one really cheered. They were thinking, is that a goal?
Yeah.
He looks broken afterwards, doesn't he?
Well,
it's just embarrassing.
The week
for him.
before, he played away at Derby and there was a back pass and it bobbled over his foot. So he had 2 weeks worth.
Oh, no.
And then he goes on to play for England after that. So it obviously didn't harm his career.
You played under Paul Hart, David. I mean, a lot of us still remember his dismissal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, actually, the club should have stuck by him. I mean, do you think in the end he had to go when he did?
Well, the rumours were, he was touting himself for the Leeds job and all that type of thing. I'm old school, and I believe he should have kept his job. And I actually believed that he was the man that was going to take the club back into the Premier League. 6 weeks later, well, the next day, I broke my leg against Sheffield United at home, and 6 weeks later, he'd gone.
You also played under Gary Megson, who was never a fan favourite, and if the reports are believed, never a player favourite either.
His first day, you know what it's like in football, and probably the same as managers when they walk in, you need to get rid of that player because he's a bad egg. Well, he came in, got us all in the room, and he slammed the door and went, before you all start talking, I've done my homework. You've heard that I'm a horrible man, and he says, well, I've heard that you lot are the same. So he went, you, and you, push us into the dressing room. But I signed a 3.5-year deal and he only signed a 2. So I knew I was here for the long haul. And we just fell out. But he banished players to the academy. He banned me from actually coming in when I was injured. So I wasn't allowed in the club for like 6 months to get any treatment.
Why?
Because he just didn't want me around, and he didn't want anyone who wasn't in his little circle of yes men around. But he was so old school, and he just ran us every day. And we played Yeovil away, and the morning of the game, he wanted us to get ourselves G'd up, and he said, it's going to be a tough game, we've got to get stuck in, it's going to be physical. And we're like, okay, no problem. It's 11 in the morning though.
Yeah.
So he brings out this American football on this car park. And we're thinking, what's he going to do with that? Maybe we're just going to move it around and stuff. So he says, right, Wes, you pick a team, and Jono, you pick a team. So I picked me mates. All the lads are like 8 stone, 9 stone. Yeah. And he said, Wes picked all the centre halves. And he says, right, let's go. So the ball got kicked up in the air. Wes picks the ball up, starts running with it, and he's coming straight at me with his hand out.
Yeah.
Like Jonah Lomu. I just stepped out the way and let him score. And the manager went, see, that sums it up. That sums up our team. You're not brave enough to stop him. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're right.
It used to drive me up the wall because I'd get that. Yeah. I'm not brave enough to go and crippled in the challenge or like go and smash some centre off. It's like, I tell you what I am brave enough to do, get kicked for 75 minutes and then put a ball in the top corner.
Yeah.
It's the only touch I get for the game, and I've been kicked and kicked and kicked and beaten and chatted to in my ear all game, and I've kept my mouth shut, and the fans are on my back because I'm getting bullied, and then the ball goes in the top corner and we win. I'm brave enough to do that. Can you not see that there's a difference in? Have I got to really run into a brick wall or snap a leg to be brave for you? You can do one.
Yeah. And,
Dinosaur.
And he got to the stage where he was so bad that the lads, he didn't care anymore. It was just one of them things that he should have never, ever been at this football club.
No, it was dreadful. One of the worst managers we've ever had. And we've had a lot of bad managers since the 90s. Yeah. It's been horrendous. We had so many emails, as you would imagine, David. You're a huge Forest icon. So many people are excited that you're coming on. We've got a few here. Dominic Money says, I remember leaving a midweek game early when I was younger as I had school the next day, and Dad quickly took me to the Chippy in Radcliffe. I turned around and Jono, who'd been substitute, was there getting fish and chips and fried home. What a guy.
Diet.
Is that true, Jim? Was that a regular...
Well, yeah, straight after the game. Fish and chippy, straight round the corner. There's loads outside the City ground. So you would think an hour after the game, after everything came in. We never had food brought in like they do now. They have pizzas or spaghetti bolognese or something like that. So
we had a table full of cakes.
Yeah, so, well...
You must have... What's
Sorry,
happened?
I've cramped up.
Mate, where was
the last night?
Yeah. How often do you get cramp? Where is it?
It's when I took my legs under the tail. I was listening intently. And I put my legs under.
Where's the cramp? Hamstring?
Hammy, yeah. It's all right. It's gone. I've stretched it out.
Have you still got ailments from your playing days?
Just the attitude. No, my back. I can't go shopping with the missus anymore. My back's too sore.
But have you, Jono, got any
Oh, yeah.
Niggles.
Knees are gone, shattered, backs. I can only do certain things. Sleeping's a nightmare. Travelling in the car for longer than 3 hours. I couldn't sleep on my front because my back's just in pain. So
you had a prolapse disc, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was actually a walking mess, but I just manage it now by not playing, not doing anything that I shouldn't be doing.
But you look like so physically fit.
Oh, I haven't eaten for a week.
No, but like,
No, I do go to the gym, and I eat better now than obviously I did when I played.
So what sort of exercise can you do?
I literally just do weights, a bit of bodybuilding, sit on a bike for an hour, but I literally eat really, really well.
You can tell, can't you?
So what sort of stuff? Because I need to lose a bit. Not that this is what this podcast is about. But have you got any tips for a chap like me?
Well, as back in the day, you eat meat and veg. That is literally it. That's all I eat. Fish or veg. Very rarely, but I treat myself. If, like on a weekend and I go out and have a few beers, I'll have, that ridiculous box in the pizza with chips, kebab, and everything else, and I'll try and eat the whole lot. It's a challenge.
It was all about carbs, though, wasn't it, when you were playing?
Oh, yeah. Pasta, rice, jack potatoes the size of footballs. You need to eat this before you play. And the food was so bland. So when you weren't in football, you think, I'll have fried chicken, fish, chips. It was literally, you just went the opposite way, where now players are just, you can even get shops with healthy food.
See, I'm like Pavlov's dog. For me now, pasta, I'm trained, I'm in. Yeah. So I'm pasta boy. So it's a nightmare because you can't, if I make a bowl of pasta for me, it's massive because my brain just goes back to Friday night, have a bowl of pasta that you can't jump over. But then
you talk about a sort of Pavlovian response to things like that. How do you feel on match days now? When if you're watching it on telly, do you still get a tingle of apprehension at 3 o'clock on a Saturday? Is that adrenaline still in there somewhere?
Nah. Normally drunk by then.
Yeah, if you're awake.
Mine's a little bit different. I think because I worked in football for the last 6 years scouting when I was at Chelsea and Leicester. I used to watch games, and when you watch games when you're not a fan of that team, it's just dull. So I'd go and scout players all over Europe, and I'd never get excited. But now my son plays for Forest, I actually get the nerves because I want him to do well and obviously to play well. Now he's only playing at the training ground. I stomp around, walk up and down, and I'd probably get it then. But apart from that, when people say, "Oh, wouldn't you love to be out there now?" I just say, it's too cold. Literally, I was on the City ground, I think, last month, and I was stood on the side, and I thought, how big is this pitch? How on earth did I run around? Well, people would say you didn't really run around. It was goal hanging, but the pitch is massive, and the ball came to me, so I thought I'd kick it back. It was rock hard. Everything now is just, your body just changes to a normal person, and I think that's where
become a mere mortal.
Yeah, where you think to yourself, I don't actually miss it.
Are you like kicking every ball for him, winning every header on the touchline and stuff?
No, because he plays in a different position to me, and I don't get midfielders. In fact, I don't get anywhere apart from a striker.
Richard Bullion's emailed in. He says, "Hello, DJ. What was your best haircut over the years?"
Well, I've only had two. It's either really long in dreadlocks or I had it bald. So, I just did that thing for 10 years where I didn't want to go to the hairdressers and save myself probably on about 50 quid.
I quite like the growing out period.
No, when I grew my hair into dreadlocks, and it was, I had it for 8 to 10 years, to maintain it and showering it, it stunk. Seriously.
Really?
I'd be like, deodorant,
all over the hair.
Spray it on the hair. And I just thought to myself, it was falling out, and wherever I went, I'd leave trails of dreadlocks everywhere, apart from when Andy Reid used to cut it off. I thought, right, I've had enough, and I cut it off.
It was in the bin. It's time now for Trick or Tree, which is a regular section where we have a fact from Forest history, which we have to decide is trick, i.e. false, or true, which is true. Last show we had a story about Alf Spouncer, who tried to post the FA Cup lid. 74% of people thought it was false, and 26% thought it was true. It was false.
Yeah.
Completely made up, and you called me out on it at the time.
I did, yeah. I'm still 100%.
You've got 100%. Right, here we go. This one's political heavyweights. Many Forest fans have spotted MP and former Chancellor Ken Clarke at the City Ground over the years. Indeed, many politicians have visited Forest throughout our history. But did you know that Gordon Brown actually played for Forest? He played a single game in midfield, never to appear for the Reds again. And if that wasn't credible enough, David Cameron also played for Forest, clocking up 20 games in the Garibaldi. Archivists here at Reservoir Red Dogs have searched high and low, but as yet can find no evidence that Theresa May ever played for the world's greatest football club. So
At what level? They've represented Forest.
I can give you no more information. This is all I have. I just read out what the boffins give me. Gordon Brown played for Forest.
No chance.
Not professionally.
So there we go. You'll find out in a fortnight.
No, because that's very leading, isn't it? Played for Forest. I mean, have they played charity events where they're called something like?
I'm being told
the Liars.
It was a full appearance, properly for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
We'll find out on the next show.
I thought it was one of these dads. I had trials at Forest, wouldn't you know?
Yeah.
But I married your mum.
Time now for Fan on the Phone, and this show's Fan on the Phone is Thomas Newton. Thomas, hello.
Morning.
How you doing, Thomas?
How are you, Thomas? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, David.
So, Thomas, firstly, a lot of people should know, you set up the Nottingham Forest Supporters Trust.
I did, around about just under 3 years ago now. Basically, me and my good friend Richard Ancliffe got to the end of a tether with how the club was being run, and I thought fans should have a greater say in how the club should be ran. So basically, we educated ourselves with Supporters Direct. Then in April 2016 now, we got the vote to set up a Supporters Trust. So it's going pretty well a few years down the line now.
That's great. And what does the trust actually do?
It's basically being the go-between between the supporters and the football club, and obviously trying to make the club a better place for all people who are connected to Nottingham Forest, basically.
Oh, it's brilliant, and it's very important that fans have that voice and have that power and influence over a football club. We're joined today, as always, by Paul McGregor and today by David Johnson. What are your main memories of Jono?
The season under Paul Hart, where we had a really good season. He banged in 34 goals, and it was just a joy to see that team put together by Paul Hart with the youngsters, and obviously then you had Marlon and David up front. It was just brilliant to watch. So, and it's just a shame that season, how we played football, it was like going back to like the 90s and before that. And it was just sad that it all broke up in 2003. And I just think that certain players deserve to be in the Premier League, and I've got the chance to play for Forest in the Premier League, and it would have been fitting for everything to come together, you see, but it wasn't today.
Yeah, Jono, you said you felt it was the end of a certain period for Forest when you get a decent team together. Do you think that was the start of when that structure started of selling players began? It
was that season because Darren Huckabee had agreed to come from Man City to Forest. So there's him, myself and Marlon Howard up front. We had Andy Reid, Gareth Williams, David Prutton, Ricardo Simica, who they let go for nothing, Jack Lester, they let go for nothing, and then Jim Brennan, they let go for nothing, Des Walker, they gave another year to. Michael Dawson, they sold. Matthew Goujon, they let go for nothing. Darren Ward, we needed another goalkeeper. So the nucleus of the team had broken up, and then obviously they sold Marlon not too long afterwards. And everyone else, I think, they were 20. They were kids.
Yeah.
And if we'd have kept them for one or two more seasons, I think it would have only done great for the club. But once they broke that club up in that season, in the off-season, I just knew it was the end.
It was it's partly infuriating to hear, really, as a fan, that we were so close and then the club didn't really hold that phenomenal side together. Thomas, Paul McGregor is here as he is on every show. What are your memories of Macca in a Forest shirt?
I remember the bicycle kick at Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, yes!
My favourite.
And how high he got, he was like, he just hung in the air and it was brilliant goal. Then obviously the goal against Leon in, I think it was the I think he's the last 16 or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
When Colin Cooper knocked himself out in the players. But no, some great memories. And that time for Forest, because my first game was Cloughie's last game against Sheffield United in '93. Then I didn't go as much the following season, but in the '94-'95 season, it was just a brilliant time to be a Forest fan, and some really good memories, because you had Euro '96 at the time, Oasis, Forest in the Premier League. It was just a great time to be a Forest fan, basically.
It was, but what a traumatic experience, your first ever Forest game to watch the Citadel fall.
I know, it was like, I can't remember much of the game, I just remember this green bloke coming up to the Trento, who was in the family pen at the time, but obviously looking back on it, I knew how much of an influence he had on everybody connected to the club. But I missed the glory years under Cloughie, basically. But it was just sad. But obviously we had great times under Frank Clark.
Well, it's good that didn't put you off. Thomas, an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Thomas, can I just ask you one question? How do you feel the club's in good hands now it's being run by Johnny Owen?
Yeah, definitely. Can I just say to all Nottingham Forest fans, I don't run Nottingham Forest. So every time you see me
if anybody has
don't have anything to do with it, okay?
Johnny, Thomas, thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Pleasure, thank you. Take care.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Reservoir Red Dogs. Email us your Forest memories and your Forest experiences if you're a mascot or a ball boy or any of your encounters with Forest legends to rrd1865@outlook.com. Follow us on Twitter @rrd1865. Please do subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, and do leave us a review on iTunes because it helps other Forest fans find it. You can follow David on Twitter @DavidAJ09. Jono. I don't know whether to call you Jono, DJ, Dave, David.
It's David now.
David. Oh, it's David. It's serious.
The dream's over now. It's finished.
David, it's been so good. I mean, all of these are a pleasure, but this has been particularly enlightening and enjoyable. I hope you've enjoyed coming on.
It's been great. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Cheers, David.
Jono! 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 Jono!